Evening, welcome to August 27th, 2026 planning board meeting. First thing we do is pledge allegiance. Second thing we do.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, yes, good catch. Appoint Ray a voting member. The first item on the agenda is AMS Properties for the subdivision on River Road. We have an email from the surveyor saying they will need a little more time for the state permits, so they're asking for an extension. So we need a motion.
Move to extend AMS Properties to September 24th.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? Well, that was quick. Review of the master plan. Well, before we do that, let me just, with CIP subcommittee, I'm going to appoint Denise Purrington, Tom Clow, Gary Shelto, Richard Butt, and Pastor Bill Stockhouse for the subcommittee. I don't believe we need a motion or a second, we just gotta do it in a public hearing. Correct?
And there's a rep too, right?
Oh, Jack Dearborn, Jack Officio, sorry, yes. So that takes care of that before I forget. Now we got master plan. Personally, I prefer Mr. Bill, Pastor Bill, to lead us through this since you were the subcommittee guy. And I would like to go through it like your vision statements, where presidents desire, yabba dabba do. And then what's the vote that made you say what you're saying?
What's the what?
Where in here do we see that you want, since this is what everybody wants? You know what I mean? Question 26 says whatever.
Right.
Question 15, do you participate in any local community organizations or groups? Of course, 71% said no. If that's possible. I did go through the
That might be
difficult.
not so much difficult, but some of the, okay, so let's start with the introduction, which is basically what we cast as a vision for the questionnaire in the first place. We referenced the RSA that we have responsibility under in 674. And then the second paragraph deals with some of the background history as to what happened and what didn't happen. And then we have the third paragraph dealing with an overview of what follows: vision statements, rural character definition, summary of each category of the survey with goals, objectives, and tasks to implement. Current demographic, zoning amendment proposal, and the survey from 2025 as in the appendix. So we used the foundation of the 1980 and the 2004 survey and its results, and we evaluated whether the vision statements from then were applicable or not. We pared them down from 7 or 8 to these 5, based upon not only the responses in general, but as far as, it's more like at the close, when you deal with the worst thing and the best thing and that type of stuff, or how satisfied, let's see. So when we look at the top 5 positives, if you will, on page 78, if we're gonna jump around like this. When you go across, cultural resources are cut off a little bit, but when you go across, the number 1 ranking for these community facilities and growth management are a top priority for the question pertaining to question 51. Please rank the top 5 categories that need improvement. Let's do this here. And, say again? Where is it? And then if you go back to 76 is the contrast, the things that we're doing well. So the ranking number 1 for that is natural resources. So as we're comparing those types of things to this vision statement, these vision statements, as well as the writing comments, the bent was towards sustaining these characteristics. For Ware to preserve its rural character by protecting its natural assets and minimizing development incongruous to a pastoral landscape. Fiscally responsible town committed to minimizing residents' tax burden through balanced spending and thoughtful economic growth that enhances rather than diminishes our rural character and charm. We know, as an example, that we can't just go pick a particular plot of property and say that's going to be our new commercial development. That doesn't come in our purview per se, but the overwhelming evidence is that we still want to manage well the economic growth of our community. 3, a town that values its environment, open space, clean water, and natural beauty, and seeks to protect these resources. So when you look at the 5 things that are the best, the number 1 is the natural resources. And then secondly, number 1 is open space. And number 2 is natural resources. 4, a town with a strong sense of community, a high level of civic engagement and volunteerism. And then a town government that operates with honesty, integrity, and transparency. So those were, like I said, things that were already part of the process that,
Right.
based upon what, so it's hard for me to say, it's this question and these answers. It's because we looked at like the 30,000-foot view, and this is how it came down.
I should have been more specific, and I didn't mean that in the first page so much as
Yeah,
in the following transportation thing and
Okay.
et cetera.
yep, all right, that's fine.
There obviously was specific questions towards transportation and
Yes,
et cetera.
yes.
And rural character definition we've talked about previously,
Right, so,
which I really don't, well, go ahead.
so because that term was used, in write-in responses, rural character, rural character, rural character, plus the 2004 survey said the same thing. So the whole thought of that didn't change. But what do you mean by that? So as a result, we formulated a definition. I also want to say that nobody's feelings are going to get hurt if you disagree with this.
That's good, because mine gets pretty red later on.
Yeah, that's fine, because it's a situation where we're trying to, as best we could, share the consensus of what we discovered.
Mhm.
And we worked hard not to invent or let our view be the push. And we held each other accountable to that.
What
And
I-
we- but yet, I'll use an example, like one of the things that were in here is, what do you call that? Impact fees. And so we've you've attended training on that, and there's some concerns. So we want to be attentive to that. Out of our discussion with Steve Keach the other day, I went on Fremont's website, and they have a pretty concise impact fee thing in their statement. But they're in a different world over there,
That's for sure.
okay? Because everything on the right side of 93 is basically Boston proper, in my mind. That's how I look at the state, you know? It's divided in half by 93, and you have,
Pretty much 101 and 93,
Yeah.
that corner.
that corner, but also 101 South, and it's only representative of what the western part of, or the central, west central part of Massachusetts is like. There's still people living on both sides of the border,
Yeah,
that type of thing. But it's not as developed as, well, Nashua's on the right side, the left side of 93, but yet they're drawing people from Massachusetts mainly, as opposed to impacting, our people work there. But, so, I don't know what you had comments on. or-
my question would be right off the bat, low-density development patterns with home space apart rather than concentrated. And then you got large areas of undeveloped land, including forest, yabba dabba do, open space. That seems to hint, low-density development patterns seems to say no cluster developments. But conserved open space seems to say cluster developments. Kind of a conflict between the two, in my mind.
Yeah. Well, the other part,
And I see what you, I know what you, well, I think I know.
the one part that I kept pushing was being aware of who we are. This is who we are. Look at all this
Dark green.
dark green that's, you know, rural ag, and there's very few commercial and industrial spots, but there's also a lot of town forest areas that are, you know, we have so much property in town that is not within the perspective of ever being developed because it's a town forest. I don't know of any towns in my experience, practical experience, other than towns that may be bordering on the national forest, have such a vast array of that type of,
Well, I think there's town forest that's not showing up in here too.
say that again?
I think there's,
Recording in progress.
oh jeez. I think there is, I'll get my map, get my north arrow up. There is property on here that, property that the town owns, has this town forest that's not shown up on here.
Well, that says public. So this is town forest over here by the dump, or the transfer station.
Yeah, if you go behind my place, there's, up on Toby Hill, there's a lot of
But
town
so
forest that's not showing up on here.
you will have a rural conservation area by the yellow dots.
Yes, that doesn't mean it's town forest, but it is.
Right. So I think in one aspect, one of the things that it doesn't take but 5 minutes off the main corridors to realize where you are at. As they say, we're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of character I think we want to protect within the context of a rural character definition. So if you want to merge those things or to identify how to better say that, let's do that.
Well, I guess my question is, well, we'll keep going. Let's come back to that. It's gonna come up again a little bit later.
Okay?
Trust me.
All right.
I did read the whole thing. Good 3 times.
Good for you.
Yeah,
And you didn't fall asleep.
I took a nap before I read them.
Okay.
Plan ahead, you know?
Yep.
So on to transportation. Which I assume, I did not look at the questions. I read the whole 17 pages several times. I did not really look at the questions. And that's why I asked you if you could point out which questions go to which part, but I don't know if you can or not. Several places mentioned that work with police and fire or whoever for proper access along roadways in a proactive way for roads that are narrow due to brush, trees, and snow. Does that mean we don't want them to be narrowed by brush, trees, and snow, or does that mean, what does that mean? Theoretically, we have proper access now. But yes,
Well-
yes, I agree that there's
So
some roads
as-
that you
as-
drive down and my rearview mirror hit the brush.
Right. We have access, but sometimes the brush, trees, or snow prohibit vision. So I'll use, and this is this is a state highway issue, but where the old Ford garage is, when you came up to that stop, you couldn't see this way,
Nope.
and you couldn't see this way, unless you got up and above.
Right.
Well, now all those trees are gone. If you're in a pickup truck, you can see that way. If you're an SUV or a car, you cannot. And you can't see this way because the bushes around the telephone pole, which are weeds, are about this high. But in a pickup truck, you can see over that. And that's a good solution, but that's just an example. Or when we look at areas that are 114 tends to be maintained well by the state and coming and knocking down whatever's on the side of the road. That seems to be encroaching. But Concord Stage, going in from the church into the village, isn't. So there's a lot of knotweed that comes,
Oh, yeah.
you know, so there was a time I walked like a 7-mile loop once a week. And leaving my house and going up the hill, I had to be careful because the bush was in the road. And if I wasn't standing out, even with my bright orange shirt, people weren't seeing me,
Right.
right? So that's kind of the types of things that,
Okay.
where that means.
So access may not be the right word there.
Right. Proper visual access.
That goes back to Jason wanting his mowing tractor that
Correct.
didn't get voted in
Right.
to
See,
maintain
I
that.
was gonna say, what's wrong with that? That adds to the rural character of the town.
True. But I'll say this. When I compare the rural character of this town to the town I grew up in, right now, that town is probably twice the size as far as population. But their infrastructure has not changed since I was a kid. So this main corridor called Central Turnpike that connects Route 146 to Oxford on 352 or whatever it's not called now. It's not called that. It used to be Route 52 that went off of 290 down into Connecticut. That main corridor is skinnier than 114. But that's a main corridor. And then what you would call main roads are no wider than this room. And we have to find really hard places. I guess if you go on Tiffany Hill Road by you, that's a road that 2 vehicles cannot pass at the same time,
Not everywhere.
okay? And so in the town I grew up in, that's normative,
Yeah, me too.
you know? And so, but yet their population's, they're twice the size. So we're doing good things, and I think that was the result of the infrastructure is well maintained and satisfied with winter plowing as an example, that people were timely, our guys were timely to get out. But when we started talking about transportation, I did get contacted by the police department, by the chief, to realize that he's working on that whole speed thing. And I think they're doing a pretty good job at trying to keep those things under control.
Well, I'd sure like to see him spend more time on River Road.
Yeah. Well, there's always a spot or two that,
Yeah, River Road is a main road, though.
yeah,
That goes right through the town.
And that, there's people there doing 70,
Oh, yeah.
No,
75 miles an
Yeah.
hour.
I see them go by all the time when we're
Yep.
down in the yard. The other morning, there was a Jeep that must've went by at 70 miles an hour. It's like, what's he such in a hurry for?
yep,
But people do.
Well, and that's where kind of the point we just talked about comes in, right? Because when the knotweed starts creeping out into the road, and you gotta pull your nose out of the driveway a little bit further, and you got some clown coming up the road at 70, 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I've,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's not like, if you use your example, it's not like people who have access aren't taking care of those things, they do, but it's on that curve, someplace inside or outside, that you can't see around, you know, even like this, today, at 9:30, there was someone walking down the hill towards me. I did not feel comfortable going around this person very easily because I could not see over the hill. And even then, this is a 30, 35 mile, and it's usually 45, 50 going by my house. And they've had speed traps there occasionally, but
That's why we put the mowing attachment on our excavator and we go from Fessenden all the way down the street
Yeah.
on our side of the road, because when we come out of our yard with trucks, they don't move out of the way very fast.
Right.
We wanna make sure nobody's coming.
So it's a mixed,
okay.
mixed blessing, if you wanna call that. It's like a blessing and a curse at the same time. It's typical of rural character, but yet
Right.
it's not like we're expecting this to be pushed back to the point where you can see everybody's stone wall clearly and there's no poison ivy, et cetera, et cetera. No, we're just looking at areas that are cumbersome to,
But how about,
Line of
how about
sight.
pulling out of the town office and trying to turn left?
yep.
Yeah, you
I
can.
mean, it's easier to come out this side, but the driveway's poor.
Right. If I'm going that way, I drive through the parking lot, go down here and turn.
Yeah.
Rather go up there and turn. So we see, I saw Naomi tow my boat one day, I saw Naomi, she looked at me kinda funny. but I don't care. So, okay. You're saying about developing a faithful relationship with the state. Who? That would be DPW, I believe, right?
Right. So I think, I asked the question of Naomi at one point, but I may be wrong. How do we know when paving is gonna happen? I mean, I'll tell you that the strip of hot top in front of the church gets paved every Vacation Bible School every 5 years. And we're trying to have people come in to park or to drop off kids, and there's a crew going by, and it's like,
Very slowly.
I have no control over that, you know? But just those types of things, and I think that's there. So that we can, it's basically coming down to, if you look at,
Usually conservation gets notified if public service, or when the state redid the culvert, they notified us,
Well,
and
that's
public
the
service
wetland
too.
thing, though. That's why conservation got voted to the wetlands. They're just paving 114, they're gonna talk.
They're not gonna talk to us about that,
right,
but they talk about clearing for the power lines and stuff like that, so. Conservation knows some of the stuff that's happening, not the
Right.
paving part.
yeah, Eversource comes to us.
Yeah.
when they're gonna do something, or when they wanted to do, and that before the historic overlay was removed on,
When they're working on a
Mount
scenic
Dearborn.
road.
Yeah. I mean, this is a scenic byway anyways.
They don't think they care. I understand.
That's like, I asked the conservation guy, it said, you putting a nice sign out about the Piscataqua River watershed? And I said, so is this a protected river? And he says, well, yeah. I said, well, you need to tell the state, stop salting in front of my house. Because that's going straight into the river.
Well, and they salt River Road as well.
Yeah.
Which runs
Well, yeah.
parallel to it
Right.
with a bridge
Yeah.
or two.
So one of the things you won't see here is that there was an attempt to justify us needing a bus system, a transportation system. And the overwhelming evidence was that we live in a rural town. You're gonna travel. We can't,
Right.
we're not inviting the Market Basket to come, or the Walmart to come, or whatever to come in town. And the realization is, we've had some of those things in the past. We used to have a pharmacy, that didn't, why don't we have it now? Well, evidently, it wasn't profitable for that. I mean, like, Howe's was once the big draw for a lot of seniors in where to go to Howe's in Goffstown. Well, then he didn't have anybody to take it over.
Right.
So those types of dynamics are part of the process of understanding what works and doesn't work. So,
Number three, the police department, I understand. Because they aren't getting support through the CIP and all that kind of stuff. I agree.
say that again?
They are not getting support through the CIP for equipment. CIP is, but the voters aren't.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the things that, these two first areas are things that cost us. Land use and growth management, there's not a lot of overhead. Zoning and economic development, there's no overhead. These two first categories, transportation and community facilities and services, have overhead. And that's why the structure is such that there's, developing a plan, a vision statement, goals, et cetera, to help support the process. And yet, that's just a communication level of letting people know what the plan is, as opposed to, oh, they're doing my road, I didn't know that. Well, you would know that if you were paying attention, because it's reported when the selectmen's minutes are given, that this is happening, or plan to within the casting the next set of roads that we're gonna manage, but we often don't know that information because we're not paying attention, or we misunderstood what it meant.
So basically, you're saying the same thing under the fire department, number 4.
Yes.
Number 5, I don't know who's supposed to do the assessment for transportation, but that,
Well, that comes down to assessing those current programs, which was done by the senior center. And they implemented, I can't remember, they're out of Keene, I think, a rideshare program. So, one of the things that sticks in my mind is, if you remember when we had that ice storm, and we were 14 days without power.
yes.
So we, at that time, had a new middle school. At that time, we had FEMA cots, et cetera, available for people. We had electricity for hot water and heat and lighting, and 2 locker rooms to be used for bathing, et cetera. Not a single person showed up. So that's who we are.
Right, we take care of ourselves.
Right.
Right.
So when we look at these things, there are big picture things that are applicable, but the nitty gritty stuff on the daily is just a small group of people who need those services.
You mentioned that 2-week ice storm, which I remember very well, but the cops came to my door and told me there's hot food someplace, and I can take a shower, all this kind of stuff if you need it. No, I really don't need anything, I got a barbecue grill, I got a wood stove.
Right.
Wood stove cooks soup and stuff on the wood stove. I got a brook that in the driveway to flush, I get water to flush the toilet. I go to work, take a shower,
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Yeah. Well, that's, I
Only
mean,
problem I
so
have
that's
is
our
stoking the wood stove.
Yankee character, is that we know how to prepare for those
Yeah,
things.
like I said, just make
You
sure
know,
it's
and
stoking the wood
be-
stove is the only issue I have.
Yeah, and to be of the mind that, you know, this is just a temporary glitch. It's not something to lose our mind over. We remodeled the parsonage in our first church, and we were without a kitchen for 8 months. And my wife was pregnant with our daughter, and we cooked on a Coleman stove on the back porch. The fridge was in the dining room, and she did the dishes in the tub.
Wow.
And
That'd be
never,
tough. Bending
never
over- bending
complained
over
once.
doing the dishes.
And then she was happy when the kitchen was done.
I bet she was.
But anticipating, so
Anyway,
one of the things that I purpose to do in this, here, in these sections, is to be proactive in the sense of, this is our vision now, but this is gonna change based on our demographic. So when I moved here in 2004, no, 2002 rather, our average age was 34. 25 years later, our average age is 46.6 years, 45.6 years. So increased by 11 in 25 years. Our overwhelming population is still age 5 to 19, our student, no, that's wrong. 35 to 54 is our overall population, the biggest category.
Well, if I read this right, what is your age group, question 7? And it looks like the biggest would be 55 to 64?
Correct.
Or
But that's-
65 to 74.
But that's the group of who responded to the survey,
Right.
whereas this, under the demographic,
Ah, okay. Yep,
is giving us 45.6.
yep.
So we're not growing old by leaps and bounds.
oh, wow. Community aging 10 years and 25 years? Sounds pretty fast to me.
Oh, well. Well, someone who's 50, 25 years ago is now 75, and that group hasn't
And they're still here.
increased. Yeah, it hasn't increased.
Well, I could see something, and how 5 is laid out, right? Periodically assess the needs of the town pertaining to transportation. And I could see at some point some sort of program, like a town that we visited in Florida. They had a van and a car that they hired people, you called them up, as long as it was within the town boundary, they came and picked you up. Now, it might not happen fast, but there was no cost to the individual.
Here they'd have to have a pickup truck so to take you to the dump.
That's probably true. That's probably true.
But that's what this program out of Keene is doing.
Yeah.
You just have to call, and there's another one just over the line in New Boston at Danny's Garage. His wife runs a helping hands type of thing, or a care thing, and they provide transportation, or with minivans they have, but also there's a team of people beyond that that are providing transportation, and all you have to do is call.
Yep.
So when I look at as an example, my congregation, I don't have to provide transportation unless somebody has no connections. The majority of people either have all their transportation within their family structure, which is what they're supposed to do. And then those who don't have family, the church responds. And I don't even have to organize it. Guys step up who are available to give transportation to whomever. But to assess our ongoing needs on a regular basis is important. Otherwise, we are developing a document that in 10 years, we just need to update it again.
Well, and,
And I'd rather have a document that's living than
yeah,
sits on a shelf.
and there's no point in solving a problem that we don't have.
Correct. But that doesn't mean we
Won't.
might have them,
Right.
won't have it in the future.
Yeah, no, I think that's good.
So, as an example, communication was one of the things that was of concern. And, as an example, you all got your new tax assessment in the mail recently. And everybody is all up in arms about it instead of understanding what it means. And the overwhelming responses that I've heard is that I wish somebody would sit down and explain to everybody what this means, as opposed to getting all upset about it. And it comes down to communicating well, but I think the document that came with it was pretty clear, as to the process or what's going on. And we communicate well as far as broadcasting information, but not everyone's listening and gaining understanding from the information. And it's not because the information is misinformation or designed to be vague. It's that there's no opportunity for questions to happen once that information is given. And we have within our culture in Ware and understanding that the best place to get solutions solved is to complain on Facebook. And that is not a helpful tool.
I don't look at it.
So the rumors that go around and things that go around, like Chase Park as an example, it's closed for the whole season. Can't use it. And I had to talk to various people at church and say, where did it say that? It didn't say that anywhere. But yet, because of what you're listening to, you now have come up with a conclusion that that's what's going on.
Well, and part of the challenge is too, again, looking at the tax situation, right? And some of the ideas that people are throwing out, right? The survey, overwhelmingly, people do not want their lot size reduced, right? But you got people saying, well, we should reduce the maximum to 2.5 acres because that would bring more revenue in because we could build more houses.
They don't understand that every house you build decreases revenue.
Well, part of it is, I don't do Facebook other than keeping track of my grandkids, right? And, yeah, I've got a couple of those.
Mine are not on yet, so
Yeah.
I'm safe.
Yeah. But when you look at this survey response out of, what did it say, 9,220 residents and 450 actually responded? And that was put out to everybody, and they had
Correct.
3 months, and nobody's paying attention, right? I've experienced the same thing in my association, right? 100 people, 20 people pay attention.
Everything is like that. The snowmobile club, there's 200-300 members, but there's only 4 group of people that show up to every meeting.
Okay. I mean, we have that same dynamic on all the private roads in town. Who's gonna plow? Who's responsible for road maintenance? and they get together and make a decision, but then nobody supports the decision, you know?
Yeah, so that's a tough one, because what is an effective means of communication,
Right.
right? We have a website, we send out letters, we beat people over the head. And communication is a two-way street.
Right.
We can put the information out, but people have to
That's right.
pay attention to it.
Right.
No matter what, there's always somebody that's gonna stir the pot.
Yep.
Well,
Well,
and
that's, it's, as an example, I was at a annual conference in Philadelphia for a group of churches. And we had our conference, and then we went to church at a different church on Sunday, and they were having a town meeting, so to speak, with just getting information about what changes were coming, or what they were gonna do with their building, et cetera, just to have a information sharing time. And I thought that was the coolest thing going. And so I tried that at home. It became, you know, roast pastor. That he's not doing this, and he's not doing that, and everybody was looking for a scapegoat, and that's what it became. You know, blame him. Like, we can't hold each other accountable because he's the problem. And it just doesn't, that's not a constructive thing. So I learned the hard way, you don't lead by consensus of large group. You appoint leaders and let those leaders lead. And if you're not letting them lead, then why have them as leaders, right? So if there's information that needs to be given concerning changes or a direction to take or why we're doing we do that education piece like 6-8 months ahead before we make the decision, so that everybody understands why, as opposed to, well, you're forcing this. No, I've never forced, because of that practical experience, I've never forced anything on a church to say, you gotta do it this way. It's always taken 6, 8, 10 months for us to process the information so that we can make a wise decision, so.
I agree. I wish I knew an answer to be able to solve, you know, if you could get to 1,000 people,
Right.
right? That would be an improvement.
Well, like Pastor Bill said, though, the response to this was better than the one to the one 20 years
Right.
ago,
Yeah,
which is really scary.
but I mean,
How bad was that?
yeah. I mean, 450 people responding is still not,
Oh, no.
and when we want to talk about things like transportation and what are the problems and that, I think it's a great idea that we, you know, that where the planning board implement necessary changes, you know, meets with, I mean, I've been here long enough now that where we've invited one of the town leaders, I'll say the police chief, it probably wasn't the police chief or the fire chief, to come to a meeting, and they don't come, right?
We had DPW here several times.
Some will come occasionally.
Well, we were talking about road design at the time, so yeah, he came.
Yeah, right. I think it's great. I like, to your point, Pastor Bill, I think if we said, established something like the third month of the quarter or whatever, Thursday, we're gonna talk about transportation at the planning board meeting, right? And we socialize that, and then maybe the third, we're gonna talk about communication, or the next quarter, right? Establish a routine to bring people in, you know, the police chief is gonna come and talk about, number one here, where, you know, concerns of speed and volume of traffic or whatever, right? And we establish a rhythm to that.
What I find, though, is when you have stuff like that, because listening to the selectmen's meetings, what goes on, the only people that show up are the ones that want to change something. Everybody else, it's fine the way it is, we're not going to show up. So we get a false reading of what people really want. It's only the people that really want something that are going to show up.
Well,
And it
that or,
could be the wrong thing that they want.
Yeah.
and that or it becomes a complaint session.
Right.
Well, that's.
I was gonna say that alone. I had another word in my head for it, but yes.
Yeah, so did I.
When we started this process, we had couple people who would show up. But then as what they thought the agenda wasn't our agenda, they stopped coming. You know, when we talked about the idea, the audience was saying things like, well, we don't have a community center, we don't have this, and I said, well, if you understood the reasoning behind part of the development of the new middle school was that the cafetorium would be that community center, as well as the gymnasium, as that community center, which is what it's being used for. And those resources are available to the community for those things to happen. Yes, we have more programs that want to use those facilities than the time allotted or permitted, and that makes it hard. And that's where, you know, when we looked at the whole controversy about the East Road property being developed for Parks and Rec, et cetera, and soccer fields and various things like that, you know, the overwhelming thought is we don't need any more programs, we don't need any more fields, we don't need. But when you aren't part of that sphere of activity, you know, I think it was the third year I was here, we sat down as pastors with the selectmen to talk with them, just to get to know them. And one selectman at that time said, I had no idea who my neighbor was until I had their kid on my team. You know, and those types of things happen. When we are aged out of an activity, we don't have that sphere of influence anymore. So that's, I think one of the things, I don't think we really put it in here, but one of the things that we talked about was to have a public liaison person or something to that effect. But we felt that we couldn't recommend that without realizing its impact upon costs and salaries, et cetera, to have that person. And it would be unfair to add it to somebody. I mean, I think we have some secretarial staff that are doing that type of stuff, keeping the calendar updated, this website updated, et cetera, but, and we don't want to make that position that would now carry more authority than the selectman, so to speak.
Okay, moving on.
Yep.
Page 6. One thing that stuck out to me, you said require, well, you didn't say, this says require the schools to participate in the CIP.
Yep,
We can't require them,
okay,
because they're a separate government entity for all practical purposes.
okay. So
We've requested many, many times.
Well, we just change that to invite.
request. So, let's think about that for a moment a little further, because I was reading, because I've got grandkids in the school system, I get notifications through the email from the SAU. And there was a statement recently about a project that they were trying to gain or make aware of. So it was almost like they were having their own CIP type of thing.
They do.
So that type of thing is maybe rephrasing the idea that invite the schools to participate, or to invite the schools to inform us of their CIP process.
Or at least CIP results.
Yeah. And it's the boards, right? The boards would be doing those things as opposed to the principal and his cohorts?
I would assume so, yes. Yeah, it'd have to be a school board.
And there'd be two, right? So it'd be boards.
Yes.
So,
Usually like this, but they're, like I said, they're a separate government entity. We
Yeah.
don't, the town doesn't deal with the schools, which is weird, but
But we have to fund them. We should be very involved. It's expensive.
that's why they have their own school board and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Same with,
You can attend school board meetings.
yes.
Yeah, invite the school boards to
Not for that.
inform the
I still
planning
have
board of their
nightmares of going to
CIP
school. I
process
didn't
and
like
results.
That works.
That works better than that.
I gotta ask a stupid question.
Please do.
Number 5,
Yep.
the planning board to implement the necessary changes to our zoning that supports the maintenance, replacement, and expansion of our facilities and services. I don't see how the expansion, maintenance, has anything to do with our zoning.
Okay,
Maybe I'm wrong, but unless you're talking about roads, even that doesn't have anything to do with it. That's all DPW.
well, the planning board wasn't involved in approving the development of the new middle school?
Nope. Town does not require a site plan.
Because it's a school.
Right.
Should that change?
Can't, state law.
State law.
They did tell us, here's what we're building.
Yep.
That was it.
So, I guess my question then is like, how do, I mean, when we look at CIP, we look predominantly on services.
Yes.
So there's nothing for the maintenance of this building for a plan. There's nothing for the maintenance of the town hall.
Nope.
There's nothing for the maintenance and
That's not-
ongoing
that's not a
responsible.
That's not a capital improvement.
Maintenance is not a capital improvement, okay?
At least I've been told that.
So should we think about a capital improvement concerning heating systems? Concerning the dismantling of the future solar system on the town building? Should we, so that's kind of what is in that thought process.
Okay.
So for number 5, would that, assuming we leave that in there, would the planning board recommend the necessary changes to our zoning? Because wouldn't the,
Well, if
do-
we take what
I
Craig
don't,
just
I
said,
don't think,
maybe,
I don't think
there's,
zoning's the right word.
there's not. All right, so let's put a question mark on that one.
Already did.
I know you did.
Which really brings us to page 8. Oh boy, a lot of red marks in this one.
You skipped 7?
Skip 7? Oh. I'm not real big in this quarterly conversations, but
Okay.
just,
Well, that's just
I
that
think it's
community.
gonna turn into just what Ray said, it's gonna be a complaint session.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, as we all know, it's gonna be the vocal minority that shows up.
Right. Well, it comes
I
to,
would think if somebody had something to say to us, we meet twice a week, we have other business on the agenda, you would hope they'd at least say something to Melissa or to somebody. I mean, they know our names, they can get a hold of us.
Yep.
We're not hard to find.
right,
I'm not gonna give them a telephone number, or email address, but they can still find us. I mean, that's just me.
well, would it,
I don't think it would be
Would
a
it-
bad idea to meet semi-annually or quarterly with the department heads just to see if there's any,
yeah.
well, I've always thought the one
Or
thing.
just to give an invitation to say,
And it's not so
please
much-
share with us.
And it's not so much the department heads, I think it's the Conservation Commission and the Heritage Commission, whoever,
Yeah.
all those guys.
Yep.
I did find something neat in my research, I'll tell you about after all this, but anyway.
So this comes to bear on the question that we had on Monday as to the gravel ordinance, land product ordinance. Are there other ordinances that
Oh,
we should have a purview of, or a copy thereof, or a table of contents of, that we might need to have in our book, so to speak? so that when we have something that comes up, that, oh, that's addressed in this, and that's not
At
zoning.
least we know it
This
exists.
This is another thing.
Like the stone wall ordinance, I've never seen it.
Oh, I've seen just because it came out before.
Yep.
It's just one piece of paper that I found that was
Nope.
there on the website somewhere.
Maybe you did tell me about it, gravel.
But that's-
Do you want a copy of it?
That's what we were
Not really.
talking about.
If I do, get me a new book, can we afford that?
That's not the budget.
No, I
There
knew
might be
that.
some down, do you like that size binder?
Yeah, we're bigger.
I heard you have a contact on the CIP this year,
I have what?
a contact on the CIP.
Yeah, we do. It is a subcommittee of the planning board, of course, so
Yeah.
maybe I get a notebook next year.
All right, page 8.
Anybody else wanna start before I get into this? Okay,
Go ahead.
I bled all over this page.
I did have trouble understanding the first sentence of paragraph 2. I understood the neither increasing or decreasing lot sizes, neither increasing nor decreasing lot sizes had support regardless of zoning classification, and residents did not support any method offered to mitigate the sprawl of subdivisions. And I guess that's the part that I didn't understand. The did not support any method offered to mitigate.
All right, so I think this is dealt in question 25. There should be a nice, easier graph to look at. So this is coming out of page 41. So pertaining to your opening question about the
Yes.
definition,
Yes,
right, is answered here.
yes it is.
And the answer is such. Encourage new residential subdivisions be, Clustered.
One-third said yes, roughly.
19, right? The overwhelming perspective is no.
No, well, I have the numbers backwards?
So number 1 is the weakest, number
Oh.
5 is the best.
Okay. So therefore, they want more roads and bigger lots. Longer roads and bigger lots.
Seems to be,
But you want to decrease the town expenditures on roads. But you're going to create longer roads.
correct.
Okay, want to make sure I understood that.
So it comes down to that catch-22, you want this, but it has to be this way. When the reality might be that they don't have to be clustered, but they could be.
No, they don't have to be now.
Correct.
It's just that most developers want them to be clustered because they build less road. And in my opinion, I would want them to be clustered, so we have to maintain less road.
Correct.
And we get open space.
Right,
Win-win.
right.
You have the same number
So
of
that's,
residents.
right, so that comes down to what we've been doing traditionally, right?
Yes,
You think of Rolling Hills, that's the same. Holly Hill, that's the same. You look at what's being proposed on River Road, that's the same.
yep.
So it's, and those are all, unless you drive by them on a regular basis, you don't know they're there. You know, going up Toby, not Toby Hill, Colby Road, up over the hill.
Yes.
I was more concerned about the wetland houses at the top of the hill, across from the yellow farm. You know, it's like, how did that get in there? You know, because that area's kind of. So then we look at cap, the number of living units, well, that's up to 40% almost.
Yeah, and that's illegal.
Correct. But did we not have a year where we put a limit on building permits.
Yes, you can do that for a year,
Okay,
and you have to have temporary moratorium and limitation of building permits and approval subdivisions and site plans per Article 674-23. I'll give you this if you want it.
674-23.
Yes. Upon recommendation of the planning board, the local legislative body may adopt or amend an ordinance establishing a moratorium or limitation on the issuance of building permits, yabba dabba do. An ordinance may be adopted under this section in unusual circumstances that affect the ability of the municipality to provide adequate services and require prompt attention to develop and/or alter a growth management process, a zoning ordinance, master plan, or capital improvement program. An ordinance under this section shall contain a statement of the circumstances giving rise to the need of the moratorium. So you gotta have a something.
Right, tangible reason why.
And the time we didn't, was the schools.
Yep.
We don't have that problem anymore.
No.
And probably never will again. So we can't do a capital building permit unless you have you can do a temporary cap.
Okay. So we need to rephrase that or eliminate it.
Yes.
So what's your,
Well, instead of putting a cap on building permits, we have a phased development. Where depending on how large the subdivision is, how many building permits a year you can get, that's already in our zoning. We did
Okay.
that after the moratorium
Okay.
was lifted. That's why Duck Pond is sitting there with 10, I think, a year. AMS, I think, is gonna get 5 a year, maybe 4. Basically, it's gonna take 4 to 5 years to build out that
Like
subdivision.
6, yeah.
Yeah, somewhere, it's gonna take 4 to 5 years to build out that subdivision, at any rate. That's so you don't get AMS dumps 18 houses in the
at once?
system at once, right?
So phased development is already in our zoning,
Yes.
okay?
Do you wanna talk about impact fees? No. Since I did some research on it, also.
Is that, where is that in the overall interpretation? Or it's a, oh, it's the next
Put a
page.
cap on the number of limit of unit building permits per year, purchase open space with town funds if taxes aren't available, and to acquire all development to incur impact fees. In the first paragraph.
Yep.
I'm still questioning that, and residents did not support any method offered to mitigate the sprawl of subdivisions. I'm still confused.
I still am too, but
So there was no, they complained but didn't have a solution. That's what that means.
Okay,
Which is,
well, so it's not.
when we think about creative leadership, more often than not, we don't address the problem by encouraging a solution. We just hear the problem. Thank you.
You want a solution to subdivision sprawl? Transfer development rights.
Okay, there's a solution. But I'm just saying that that statement deals with the fact that the people in the community don't have an answer.
I was gonna say support's probably not the right word then.
yeah,
Did not offer,
Yeah, that's-
Something like that,
Yeah.
yes.
did not
I was gonna say provide,
provide, yeah.
or provide any solutions to mitigate the sprawl of subdivisions.
Okay, so support any method removed, offered.
Yeah. I think that'll make it easier to understand.
Yep. All right, so I don't know a lot about impact fees other than what was shared by Alyssa and the mysterious reasoning behind why we would do it in the first place.
Well, the reason we do it in the first place, it sounds really good to get money from developers, help the town pay bills.
Right,
That's,
but
everybody's gonna say yes to that, right?
but there's no,
That's not the question.
yeah, but there's no, you have to have specific rhyme or reason in what you're supporting. You can't just spend it on
Right.
I don't know if the general public realizes they can't charge an impact fee to Joe Schmo developer and put scales in the transfer station.
Correct.
I don't think they realize that.
Correct.
Correct. And
What
have
you
to-
can do, the only thing you can do, the amount of the fee shall be proportional share of, oh, this is 674.23, nope, 674.21,
5,
Roman numeral 5,
yeah,
yes.
that's what's referenced here.
So it says, that as used as section, impact fee means a fee or assessment imposed upon development, including subdivision, building construction, or other land use change, in order to meet the needs occasioned by that development for the construction or improvement of capital facilities owned and operated by the municipality, including wastewater, waste treatment, wastewater treatment, storm sewers, flood control, roads, right-of-ways, schools, public works, municipality's proportional share of, the amount of such fee shall be a proportional share of a municipal capital improvement cost, which is reasonably related to the capital needs created by the development and to the benefits accruing to the development from the capital improvements financed. Upgrading of existing facilities and infrastructures, the need for which is not created by the new development, shall not be paid by impact fees. Period.
Gotcha. So it has to be something brand new.
Well, it has to be something that development caused the need for.
Gotcha.
So,
Yes.
because of this development, we need this. And you can only use it for certain things, you have to use it within a certain amount of time. There's a lot of paperwork involved. But yeah, you basically have to show a correlation between this development and then the need for,
In this town, it would be hard to prove.
Well, hang them in.
The extra traffic will deteriorate the roads quicker. Well, how do you come to that conclusion?
You can say that, that's true.
Yeah.
But the traffic coming out of AMS, 18 times 10 trips a day is 180 cars a day coming on River Road. That's probably 0.002% of the traffic.
I know.
So you're gonna file a capital improvements fee of
Yeah.
what? I don't know.
And all the paperwork involved it's not worth it. If we had like water and sewer, like some other towns like Hooksett or whatever, that would be better used for that, because that's a tangible thing they're gonna be adding to, but here,
Well, if they, and if, you know, if the plan holds and we keep the population relatively steady, you know, because 2 or 3, and I don't know what the magic number would be for, you have to add another officer on the police force, right? You have to build an addition to the school.
yeah.
Well, that's not gonna happen in our lifetime.
Yeah, but I mean,
I know.
if somebody jammed in 124 condo units in someplace, then,
They may need a road upgrade, that's probably about all they need, and we can do that anyway. I'll get to that. Also, under capital improvements, fees imposed pursuant to this section shall be assessed at the time of planning board approval of a subdivision plan or site plan. So all these existing lots aren't gonna be get an impact fee.
Correct.
Goes on to say, when no planning board approval is required or has been made prior to the adoption, but that's not the case. Impact fee should be collected at the time of occupancy, not before that, because there's nothing anyway. And the maximum time is 6 years, I thought it was 7. We can hold the money for 6.
gotta use it in 6 years.
Right. And it's gotta be in an interest-bearing account, it's gotta be separate from everybody else's, so you gotta have a gazillion accounts
Yep,
getting interest.
or record keeping,
Yes.
Beth will have her head.
yes.
The cool thing is, J, the failure to adopt an impact fee ordinance shall not preclude a municipality from requiring developers to pay an exaction for the cost of off-site improvement needs determined by the planning board to be necessary for the occupancy of any portion of a development. So we can
Does that mean
still.
roads that lead up to the development?
Yes.
Okay.
In our case, that's what all it is. You're not
So
gonna-
that's
You
what-
don't need
so-
to increase size of the sewer line, because we don't have any.
Right.
Transaction fee.
Right. So we still, which goes down back to the whole, there's 1,000 cars going by now, there are gonna be 1,010, so. If we do impact fees also, it's gonna be on everybody. We can't just say on major subdivisions. So-and-so come in, and does a one lot subdivision, they get nailed for impact fee.
What was that, J?
Yeah, that was J at the bottom of the page, wherever that is.
Yeah.
Roman numeral 5J.
An exaction.
Also, under L, this goes into the record keeping, no later than 60 days after the end of the fiscal year, any municipality having adopted an impact fee ordinance shall prepare a report listing all expenditures of impact fee revenue for the prior fiscal year.
Sounds like more work than it's worth for us.
I don't think it's worth it for several reasons, plus you gotta do a cost of services study to know what the impact fee
Understood.
prices are gonna be. And I know probably 2010, we got a price of $30,000 to do a cost of services study. That's gonna be at least 45 now,
If not more.
if not more. So if we spend 40 grand on a cost of service study, we're never gonna, shouldn't say never, it's gonna take a long time to get that 40 grand back. A long, long time. However, through all that, I found something really neat that I'll tell you about right now. This is my last piece of paper I printed out. When we looked under development restrictions enforceable, 67421A, which you Conservation Commission members should pay attention to this. Any open space designation or other development restriction which is part of a cluster subdivision, planned unit development, village plan alternative, or any other lawfully imposed by local land use board's condition of subdivision site plan approval, which has been filed with the records of shall be deemed to create a conservation restriction as defined in RSA 477:I, which shall run with the land and shall be enforceable by the municipality or by the owner of the property, which would be specifically damaged by the violation of such restriction, regardless of whether any deed or other instrument conveying such restriction has been executed or recorded.
What's that mean?
It means we don't need a conservation easement. We can do it anyway.
Can do it anyway.
Right.
You see that?
67421A. I did not know that.
(624)A under what subpoint?
67421A, little a. Local land use word, development restrictions enforceable, is the subtitle. Probably not even in here, that's probably why I never knew about it.
There isn't one.
Yes, here. Page 419.
Oh.
So,
So tell your Conservation Commission buddies, I agree, we need to change the zoning.
so
If I'm understanding that right, it means that,
if I read this a certain way, all that controversy we had on Eastman, this-
that wasn't part of a cluster subdivision, planned unit development, or anything else.
that was just conservation land, that's different?
That was town bought it for, supposedly for conservation purposes. But we were talking about if we do a subdivision, we require open, and they do a cluster and they require open space, we've been struggling finding somebody to take the easement deed, whether it's whoever, Piscataqua River, whoever. We don't need anybody. we can enforce it without a deed.
Okay.
The only question is then, the problem I see is then, usually our easement deeds allow everybody to walk on it. I'm not sure that would be the case otherwise. I know it allows hunting and all that kind of stuff, and there's no motorized vehicle use. So I don't know where all those restrictions to that open space would go in. You know what I mean? Where do you restrict what's allowed in that open space?
Right. And it goes on to say, if there's a violation, any landowner can,
What's a violation?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's my point. Anyway, that was something I came across, I wanted to share.
Thanks.
Stir in the pot.
The pot was stirred last year. I'm trying to get it to calm down a little bit when I saw that. You can have that. So I assume you mean by purchase open space with town funds if taxes are not raised means current use?
It's like, we do that anyways.
Great.
It's just an affirmation, that one. I mean, I think we need to restate goal one to make it legal, that we would do an evaluation. And I don't know if, did the planning board make that decision for the moratorium on building permits?
That was the whole problem, one of the problems. The planning board had one moratorium go to the voters, and the citizens had another one go to the voters, and everybody said, don't pass them both, and they passed them both. And what it made a mess for a year.
So why did we permit that to happen, or why did that happen? Shouldn't have one of the groups had a conversation with the other and said,
That's the same thing that happened again with
yeah,
East.
East Road?
Contradicted it, and it was just, you couldn't do, neither side could do anything.
Right. So it could be,
Yes,
have
the-
a
the
temporary moratorium.
Which we can't do, but we could, I guess. I would not be in favor of a temporary moratorium, because I don't know what emergency problem we have.
Okay.
Hillsborough did that in the early 2000s, because they had so many building permits that the building inspector couldn't keep up. So they put a moratorium, and then the following year, we had a recession, and there wasn't any building permits. Didn't need it.
I mean, I don't see how we can say we have an unusual circumstance that affects the ability of the municipality to provide adequate services. I don't see it. So the last sentence before you get to goal one, residents voice that any new businesses should fill voids in services that are not currently provided and where, rather than providing redundant services.
I don't think we can regulate that.
We can't.
No, we can't. But that's still, again, it's reflective of what was stated.
I mean, that's like when Dollar General passed. We didn't know if it was gonna be a Dollar General, or if it was gonna be a hardware store, or if it was gonna
Correct.
be something else.
And they couldn't answer.
Yeah, they didn't know.
Yeah.
He didn't have a client, he didn't have a client yet.
Right. Which,
And one member of the board voted no, because he didn't think we needed another automotive, what was it, hardware store, automotive, hardware, and
Yeah.
Dollar General. He didn't think we needed another hardware store, another automotive store.
right.
So one guy voted no. That has nothing to do with it, whether we need one or not.
Right.
I've noticed most of the Dollar Generals in existence have terrible landscaping. I think it's part of their,
I actually said something to her the other day, down there. She said she started bugging corporate in June to get the lawn mowed, and they're not responding to her.
there's one in Jaffrey, same way, same exact way, all overgrown. It's like, what the heck is it with these people? They don't want it to look good, apparently.
The ones in Vermont and New York, by the way, are all mowed nice and neat.
They probably mandate that.
Could be. Okay, so I kind of put a kibosh to goal 1 and goal 3, right?
Yep. And that's not just a consensus of you,
Well,
that's a
no,
consensus of
I understand, but I gave you the information to agree with me.
those who attended the conference or that session came out with that same perspective, so.
Yes, I'm sorry. Bad wording.
Really, the whole gist of it is the town residents don't want to be overrun. That's what it is. You know, some of these towns, you go to Laconia,
Well-
they're being overrun by
It-
people.
It's like, we use Dollar General as an example. It was all within permitted use.
Right.
We, you know, like when we had our site walk for the church's changing of use, you guys didn't want to know anything about what we were doing with the building or what the building was gonna look like inside. That had nothing to do with
Doesn't matter.
the zoning, because that's a building issue.
Right.
So when we look at that perspective, you know, Dollar General wasn't something that we were trying to trash the town. It was all still within use, you know? And it's the same thing when you look at the plaza behind the Dunkins. That's constantly changing. It's not the same tenants. You know, the telephone company isn't there anymore. They moved back home.
Right.
And they open up opportunity for other things to come in. And, you know, there's understanding that, you know, if there was another, parts dealer in town, I don't think it would hurt anybody.
People choose where they want to go.
You know, if you grow up going to this type of auto parts place, that's where you go. Doesn't matter. Dad went there, Grandpa went there. You know, my cousin.
Yeah, you walk in and say, "Hi, Joe, how you
Yeah,
doing?
yeah.
I need an oil filter for my Dodge." Okay, here you go.
But could you go in and say, I need a Dodge for my oil filter?
Well, you could say that.
That would be at the auto
You
dealership.
could say
They go
that.
up on, in Concord on the auto runway there. So what did you say? Well, we just said eliminate goal 3.
I have a problem with, I mean, how do I say this? I know this document is derived from the responses from the questions. But when the people answer the questions don't understand the question, I have a problem. I'm gonna stop there.
Yep.
And I think cluster subdivisions is a good example of that. You want rural character, you want open space, but you don't want clusters. Well, you don't want anything then. If you don't want anything, who's gonna serve me coffee? I mean, if you don't grow, you're gonna shrink.
I'll have to go to Goffstown.
Or Henniker, yeah. And then what brings that up is the town should not actively engage housing developments to be clustered or otherwise. What do you mean? We should not encourage any housing developments, period? Is that what it says?
The point is that we manage it. We need to pick the verbiage so that we understand that growth management is just that, as opposed to saying, well, it's permitted because they have a plan here, but is that best serving the town? I think there was talk at the last meeting, which I wasn't at, but I watched it, about the affordable housing deal.
Yes.
How does that work? Because that's a super cluster.
No,
No?
they're same density.
Right, but I'm saying you're not getting any open space with that. Right? And what they came to,
What they showed,
Conceptually.
what they showed, no, but when you get the density correct and reduce the number of units from whatever down to 11 or 12, you're gonna have open space.
okay,
You're gonna have to. Anyway, I don't understand, Bill. I'm not sure we should mention Montpelier's Vermont's planning and zoning ordinances, but
okay, so,
I didn't look at them. I just saw that, and I don't like quoting anybody's in here. I don't mind stealing it online and copying it, but
correct. But if we look at page 41 as the overall perspective, the only thing that was encouraged to do something about were three things out of the list. Number 5 was in full support, is put a cap, and then we go down to the bottom, purchase open space with funds if taxes are not raised,
yep,
and then require all development to incur impact fees.
right.
Those are the three only things that said yes to.
2 we can't do and 1 we're already doing.
Correct. So then when we look at the negatives, higher residential density, they don't like that. Permit higher residential density as a bonus for creation of affordable housing, don't like that. Increase minimum size for lots on gravel roads, currently 10 acres, nope. Don't want to increase, decrease, nope. Increase minimum lot size on rural ag, currently 5. It's just over like 9% higher than,
30%. Roughly.
30% versus 20%, so 10%. For those in favor of it, it was 20%. Decrease minimum lot size, don't want to change that. Increase minimum lot sizes for lots in residential, commercial, and industrial zones currently depends on soil conditions. I would say that those who responded don't understand what that means, but it's either flat in the middle and it's only 5% higher to say no. Decrease minimum lot size, but for lots in residential, commercial, to decrease minimum lots, no. And there's nothing really to compare that to in the other responses. Purchase open space with town funds if taxes are raised, and it's no, although 22% say yes. So when we look at that,
We're doing pretty good. Basically.
yeah, I mean, I think for all practical purposes of land management, when I think about living here for the last 25 years, I was not pleased because I had hunted Holly Hill. I wasn't pleased
Okay, Chuck.
with that. Yet, the way it was done in salvaging the farm right on the roadway, yeah, they've done what they could with the property, but it's not like it's in your face. So it was done well. Look at Rolling Hills. Unless you drive down the road past the first property, you have no idea what's in there.
No, it's surprisingly big.
And it's a nice development.
It's not a cluster though, I don't think.
No, it's not, but it's still,
Yeah, it's nice.
again,
It's nice.
within reason, within the context of keeping.
Great.
I'm trying to remember. There's one, I think it's Roosevelt. That one I'm always puzzled over the architecture diversity of that road. Because there's brick facade, mansion type of things, and then right next to it is this modern, Mr. Wright design house type of thing. And you begin to wonder, but even that development is done well because everybody has a view. It's not like the people on the right are equal on, because the sloping properties. It's really a nice development to see that everybody gets this beautiful view. So it's not like in those settings, or even what we're proposing, or what's being proposed by AMS. It seems, as far as the layout, to be very pleasing aesthetically and not overwhelming, even though it's a cluster development. I'm puzzled sometimes, like, was it Elm? Is a small, very small, I think there's only 6 houses, and then there's this huge open space that's up on the mountain, on this big hill. How do you get access to that?
Where are you talking about?
Off of Hatfield. So you go into Hatfield, before you get to the town line, there's a development to the left. There's one part of the development that goes up the hill, and that's not a cluster, but down below, that next, I can't remember what the main road is, but this is Elm. Elm is a cluster development, because everybody's sitting on top of each other practically. But the whole
I
hill,
think that's both
is
pretty old
common.
subdivisions.
Huh?
I think those are both pretty old,
right.
very old.
But that's the concern, like when I'm thinking about AMS, or in the discussion we've already had earlier, how do you access those public properties and are those access ways maintained? You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, we do have access to some of the the town forests, because it's marked, and there's a parking area, and there's a walkway. But beyond that, how far in does that go to make it truly accessible? Do you have to bushwhack yourself after 50 feet, or?
Well, Fessenden is absolutely inaccessible.
That's the one we messed up. I was gonna say, we messed up one in Pheasant.
I can access it because I border the whole thing.
Yeah, but those are the types of examples that we would want to be sure that when those type of developments go in, that is a major concern. And which is, I think with AMS, we're making that pretty straightforward, that,
They're very accessible,
yeah,
yes. And now that we have it all, property lines all blazed and painted, it should be pretty obvious.
Yes.
For a while,
yes,
10 or 20 years anyway.
yeah.
Okay. 8:30. So we're the natural resources now?
Did you have any more questions on goal 4 or 5?
I still don't understand the whole cluster thing being there, and I don't like pointing out Montpelier, Vermont's planning and zoning ordinances, but
Yeah, I understand that.
besides, I mean, I don't know of any other real ordinances we can pass that would create rural character. We changed the road design recently to make it more serpentine and no nice, long, straight roads. We changed that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else we could do, to be honest with you, but.
Fortunately, this town has a lot of open space with Clough Park and everything, so we're never gonna be fully developed.
That's for sure.
Well, plus, for all practical purposes, once you get past, outside of Concord,
There's not much.
we don't exist. To be honest, you know, I'll just use a pastoral meeting where, these guys in Concord were meeting on a regular basis, and I got invited to go, and it was like, you're from where?
You're one of those guys, aren't you?
And it's like, yeah, I'm from where, and I have just as much to offer as you do, but I'm not in the same world. Pastoring in Concord is an inner city deal. It's not like out here in the sticks when there's nothing. There's no,
The homeless person on the corner.
no.
No.
The worst case scenario I have is a vagrant who lives out of his car, and taps the water every now and then.
Yeah.
That's all. You know, it's not like when I was pastoring in Glen, we had vagrants come to the church all the time because the Mount Washington Valley was the summer home of all the homeless people from Portland.
Really?
Yeah. So they would leave the shelters in Portland and go find a place to camp for free in public land. And they would, just like the people in Concord on
Oh, yeah, they're all everywhere.
Merrimack River right
Yep.
there behind, on that big field. And they've been pushed out of there, but,
They're on the other side of the river now, that's all,
yeah,
for the railroad
they
track.
learned to swim.
Yep.
So one question. In the overall interpretation there, it says 3/4 of where residents surveyed visit natural areas or parks. Would it be more accurate to say 3/4 of where respondents? 'Cause
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
in
Yeah.
where was surveyed.
Yes, yes. That's a good point.
And there's probably a couple other places that we should probably change to respondents.
What are we talking about, mitigate damage to our natural resources, open space during any development?
That's already a law anyway.
What is it, well,
Yeah.
I wonder if we had an example that we could have,
I don't think we had an example. I think it was mainly a response to, so that would be, so on page 65 is the answers to question 40.
I guess everybody wants their drinking water.
Rate the importance of the following natural and cultural resource protections. So the answers are there: project the water supply, aquifers, surface waters, rivers, wetlands, floodplains. So the question you had would probably fall under protect hillsides and steep slopes. Or and ban ridgeline development or protect views of hills and mountainsides.
When they say ridgeline development, does that mean they don't want you to build a house on the top of a hill anymore?
Yep.
What that is?
Yeah, it would be like Grandview. Although the houses you see aren't on the back side, they're the new ones that are on the front. Or on the left side, rather. And that's only because you can see Grandview coming down Concord Stage. When you think of Wallingford Terrace, which the houses, there's 3 houses on the left side and on the end that have tremendous views. But you can't see those houses from anywhere else in town. If you had binoculars, you probably could see them from Onkanunuk, because you can see just the outline of the towers a little bit from up there. But then we don't have anything else like that, unless if you went into Mount William Pitt and look up the hill, there's his houses that you can see there, and that's why they're wanting to manage or promote better management and voted against the asphalt plant going in down there. So for all practical purposes, all those things that were have been developed that would fall into those categories are already been developed. There's no other places to develop.
My property.
Yeah,
Can't get
but-
up there, but it's,
Yeah, but if you get up there, and built a nice road up there, you'd still, what would you see? Or who would see it?
everybody in Lake Horace.
They would see that?
Yep.
Tiffany's
People-
property wouldn't protect it from that?
Well, I'm not, gonna- you can't do it, it's too steep anyway,
Yeah.
but I'm sure there's other properties though.
I mean, I have a friend that lives on Glen Road in Deering, and his property, he's got like 12 acres. You come out to the edge where it starts to drop off. You can see the top of Tiffany Hill. You can't see any house. Even
Really?
in the night, you can't see any house. You can't even see the lake. You can see the divot where it is, but that's it.
I can see Crotched Mountain from over there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I can see Crotchet coming across the lake.
Yep.
By the dam, you can see Crotchet. Or when I'm coming down to the river, just past the police station, I can see Pat's Peak, and I can see it coming down the other way. But that's light pollution that is like more of a, not a negative thing, but it's like, oh, that's pretty cool that we could see
Yeah, I
that.
know, I think it's kinda neat.
Yeah,
I don't like it, but that's all right. How about instead of saying mitigate damage, we say reduce or eliminate damage?
yeah.
That makes more sense to me.
But I would almost like to see a period after cultural resources. Because isn't that something we want to do, even if it's not a
Right.
development?
True.
So take off
During any development.
during any development.
Yep.
And then it's applicable to everything.
Correct.
So the next statement, discerning, granting variances, et cetera, I think that's a symptom of, yeah, but what about this? And what about that? As opposed to, the variance is given because they've proved their case, not that you're excusing
Right. It's
the
like,
zoning.
it's like affecting a wetland buffer. You can't get a variance for it, obviously. If you got a permit from the state to cross the wetland, you gotta go through the buffer.
Right. And that's one of those dynamics that are not understood in whose sphere of responsibility does this lie? You know, when you think of, as an example, our local police, our state police have jurisdiction in their particular areas or regions, but Fish and Game has jurisdiction over everybody.
Right.
You know, so who's responsible in these situations? It's, well, zoning can only do so much. If DES says yes,
Right.
what are you supposed to do? You know,
Well, there certainly are instances where you have a hardship and you should grant a variance.
right,
No doubt about that, in my mind. It does happen.
so when we think about this whole thing, these objectives and tasks that are being outlined here, when we look at the 2004 report, there's a whole section on actionables in the end. They're more suggestive, so to speak, than required. These are more suggestive, so to speak, than required.
Well, this is a guideline, it's not really a,
Right.
I was gonna say Bible, sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay,
So that statement, be more discerning in granting variances, the zoning board needs to do that, not the planning board
right.
or the ZBA. And that's another thing that
Of
people
course,
misunderstand, is it's not the zoning board, it's the zoning board of adjustment.
It could mean planning board if you added granting variances or, oh, shoot, I just forgot my word. waivers.
Mm-hmm.
So granting variances or other exceptions could be waivers that we grant.
Right.
Yeah, it's always a sticky thing with me, the waivers, like when they came in and they wanted 5 different waivers, there's a limit. You know, you're pushing it. 1 or 2 is one thing, but 5,
Yeah.
it doesn't fit the land.
Is it just because of the money, or what's the reason for
Right,
it?
it's always about the money.
Right.
But there are some waivers that we grant because the work has already been done. Correct? In the sense of, why does this need to be shown? We have another document that shows it.
I don't know what you mean. Sorry.
Like, we've had some site plans that will say, well, there's no documentation of the wetlands here,
Oh,
but it's on this other document. And we give
Yes.
them a waiver not to put it on that, but it's noted that it's on this.
you got a subdivision plan, you got 2 years later, you have a site plan.
Right.
The wetlands are shown here that are way away from the building, don't affect the property, but. you know.
Correct. So that's the part that's difficult to have a carte blanche statement that said you need to do this. Now got more work to do than is necessary because, not because we're trying to circumvent responsibility, but we're trying to be responsible for what's already been
Right.
approved.
Goal 2 sounds good to me.
My only question with that is, with the advent of the electric mountain bike, is an electric mountain bike a motorized or non-motorized vehicle?
Yes
A
or
gray
no?
area for sure.
E-bikes motorized.
Sorry?
An e-bike's motorized.
Technically, it's motorized by a battery.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I've seen them
When
on the
you-
rail trail, though.
when you look at that as I can't remember what police department, they did a discerning, because their zoning was specific. An e-bike can't go more than 15 miles an hour.
Mine has a cruise control, got 35.
Well,
It
their zoning was such,
does.
but an e-bike has to have pedals.
Yeah, mine does.
So if you go to the point where there's no pedals, you're not talking about an electric mountain bike anymore, you're talking about a motorized
Yep.
dirt bike.
My
That's
e-bike,
battery
my
powered.
e-bike is just like a motorcycle.
Yeah,
Go. Like 35 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I've never gone that fast on it, trust me, but
Well, so, and was it the Ware Police Department just put out something?
There was something about them
With the
being on the
definition,
road.
yeah, because if it goes more than 28 miles per hour,
Yeah.
you can't go on sidewalks, and
Right.
it's treated as more of a motorcycle than it
Correct.
is. But and I've got e-bikes too, that I pedal or,
oh yeah, you can go
Right.
crazy.
but the question will come up, and it'll be argued, is an e-bike a non-motorized? Or do we just define it as e-bikes are considered motorized bikes and aren't allowed on
I would
non-motorized
almost
roads?
define it as
So-
an assisted bicycle. You know, you go up a steep hill, it's nice to have a little help.
Well, a little hill, it's nice to have.
So it would make it more pleasurable
Yeah.
to go on the.
Bill, can I ask a question?
yes, you may.
So we've been talking about communication and how we communicate, and it's a living document. So I had made a couple notes on goal 1 and goal 2. I had written, so we talked about the zoning board. How would the planning board plan to communicate that to the zoning board? If we want the zoning board to be more discerning in granting variances, what's the communication piece for that?
We can't tell them that.
Right, so how do we communicate, I'm just asking, maybe because I don't know. And then goal number 2, a task is to support the Ware Conservation Commission, so again, how do we communicate that to the Conservation Commission? How do we make sure that they know that this is.
Basically like
So-
we've been, we made an agreement to try to talk to each other more. That's basically it.
I was just, we talked about communication, and
Yep.
it was one of our prefaces in the beginning.
Yep.
And how do we, so how,
So if we're gonna be encouraging the ZBA to be more discerning, we can't tell them that.
Right.
We can advise them that. We can write a letter to advise them of that.
We can write them a letter saying that the master plan survey suggests
Correct.
you are more discerning.
But so if we
can't-
approve, so if this statement gets approved the way it is, we would then provide this document to every
To every,
subsidy, thing in order to have them aware of. And we may,
Please see page
have an
10.
overview of the letter
Prep.
stating, here's the areas that concern
yeah,
you.
here's a cover letter, like, and this is what,
Yes.
that's, okay, that's a great idea.
So that would be a way to, because even sitting here, when we first started this process, one of our members says, I don't even remember voting the one in 2004 in. And I don't think there was a mitigation of this conversation at that time. I think because it was hired out,
I wasn't on the board then, to be honest.
and because it was hired out, that's the answer, that's the solution. Whereas this is more organic, in that we're taking the time to hash this over ourselves. So, good point.
We ready for goal 3 or not?
Yeah,
We
which
talked about
I was
Tom.
gonna say runs into what Ray was, Mr. Menard was saying.
Jeez.
Well, we got Mr. Lemay and Mr.
Oh, yeah.
Lamar.
Well, we could just go by Ray 1 and Ray 2.
I do that at church, I got Heather and Heather.
We
Heather number
Alpha Ray
one.
and other Ray.
Yeah,
we had 2 Rays that worked in our Bedford sign at one time. One Ray had been for like 6 years, and we hired another Ray, so, well, you're just R2. That's all there is to it. Not a D2, just
Better than
R2.
Ray and old Ray.
They're about the same age. Some of them are pretty.
We're both pretty old.
And so I was here first, I'll be Ray 1, you get to be Ray 2.
Yeah.
So our comments on this is basically the e-bikes and communication, right?
on goal 2.
Yes.
Yeah, but it says non-motorized, so I'm thinking, when we think of that, we're talking about walking trails, as opposed to the second page, goal 3 is more of those trails that are used by,
I agree. It says non-motorized. To me, an e-bike is motorized.
yeah.
It's got an electric motor on it. Go ahead.
Yep, I agree. Not that that matters.
Right. So this area is important, yet very difficult, in the sense that trail sections that are often used by off-highway recreational vehicles are basically an abandoned road that is it's not even identified by the town, but these vehicles use them, and really without permission.
Sometimes.
Supposed to have permission.
And I'm not sure if that, we have the infrastructure that's necessary, even if the conservation appointed a trail subcommittee. It would be better for us to resurrect or get the ATV club back running and let them mitigate that process with the Conservation
Well,
Commission.
right now, the Where Winter Wanderers are carving a new, I think it's a 5-mile trail on Merrill Road. And that's a benefit to the Conservation Commission, because we've been wanting walking trails, so when they logged it, so the snowmobile club's gonna come in now and improve that whole trail thing so that the snowmobiles can go on it. Not four-wheelers, because four-wheelers are highly destructive. I have one. I love four-wheeling, but when we go up north, the trails are horrendous, and they can cause a lot of damage. The snowmobiles
I'll
don't.
go to Clough.
Oh, boy, yeah, I've been there.
There's
But-
a lot of trail networks nearby,
Yeah.
though, there's a lot of wear
But,
and deer.
you know, the Snowmobile Club has been very active keeping the trails open. The Conservation Commission is happy to work with them.
Right.
So,
Yeah, when we go riding locally, we ride in Henniker, Hillsborough, Hopkinton. We don't ride in town, because we don't know where the trails are.
Clough State Park?
Well, we can't ride a side-by-side
No,
in Clough.
side by side.
And then we will go up to, what's it called? I wanna say Amanuset, but that's not the word, is it? Up in Warren, there's another trail, the oldest ATV club in the state, that's well-maintained. We ride there, or we all go all the way up to Jericho and do Mills Fields and try to get to Pittsburgh, which we've
Boundary
never.
trails are nice.
Yeah, Boundary Trails are good. Yeah, especially since they blew up that whole rock.
Kentucky Valley Riders,
Yeah.
and the trails out there.
Yeah.
Stay away from the goat trail.
So, those types of things are, I think when we first moved to town, there was more presence with an ATV club, which I think is now either defunct or,
Clough is mostly dirt bikes too.
yeah, well, my son hadn't ridden in Clough at all, and his brother-in-law did. He's on a dirt bike. My son's on not a Prowler, a Yamaha something, single two-wheel drive thing, and he didn't know there were water bars. And he flipped the machine. He's got a permanent burn on his elbow from the muffler. He had a puncture wound in this elbow, and road rash, his whole side. And that's when I learned very quickly, I do not want to be a emergency room tech who's responsible for taking and scrubbing that out. As I watched the guy do it, it was like, good for you, boy.
I think the,
Cash.
Yeah,
I fell out of a boat in Main, I fell out of a boat on Main Street, and I had, I don't even
you're
remember
going on a
which,
boat on Main Street.
falling out, I just told you that. I got
Were you in a parade?
some nice scars, going down the side, knees, on my whole left side. Yeah, they scrub pretty, they aren't very friendly when they do that. They can't be, though.
no,
I had a piece of gravel come out. Must've been in the arm, where'd it go?
it was embedded.
It was a bed that came out right there,
Jeez,
5 years later.
Yeah.
Went from there to there.
unreal.
Yeah, that was weird. Anyway,
So it sounds like this is being done, goal number 3.
well, we can't repair trail sections of class 6 roads. Or else it's not class 6.
I think the local club and the local clubs are doing a pretty good job keeping everything.
They can do that, the
Yeah.
town can't.
Yeah, they're doing it.
Yeah, we've got friends that run a club in Andover, Maine. And if you remember that late March rain that closed Sunday River, they just this summer got some of those trails back,
Yeah, some of them were really bad.
yeah.
I'm not real sure I like the idea of the selectmen to establish rules to limit OHRV during mud season. Because who's gonna enforce it? Then the police are gonna want a four-wheeler. Then they're gonna need a trailer to tow the four-wheeler to wherever they're going. Then they're gonna need a second four-wheeler in case they need backup.
Well, North Country is patrolled by Fish and Game.
Well, so is here. Fishing game patrol Clough all the time.
Right.
Do, yeah.
So that's
But
probably
you're
what,
saying, but
if-
you're saying selectmen, that means, makes it a town thing, in my opinion.
yeah.
That's kind of an unwritten rule anyway, that
Yeah,
all the
it's-
trails are closed in the spring.
Henniker limits stuff
Yeah.
for ATVs.
Yeah.
Everybody closes
You know,
trails.
roads closed, roads
So-
open, like,
You used to be able to park across from, not Intervale, what's it called, that restaurant now, that's not a restaurant, across from Pat's Peak, that lower parking lot, you used to be able to park there, and then come out of there and go up the road and up the hill, and find yourself in Hillsborough, be able to go to the High Tide, and come back around and jump into go up to Hopkinton, and you could all get to the pizza place, to Dimitri's. But then some drunken sailors rode up the mountain, and that ended the parking there.
Yep.
So it polices itself, and I agree, maybe it's not, it's a rule of thumb. For those who ride, you don't go riding
Yeah.
in mud season.
How about you take out, leave it there and start with the word limit? I don't know how we're gonna do it, but
I don't know how we would be able to enforce any of that. That's more a fish and game, and
I mean, during COVID, I was up at my property, all of a sudden, it happened 2 or 3 times. The 3 ATVs came down the hill. Granted, they were almost on my path, but my path doesn't get to the conservation land. They came out of the conservation land onto my property, zigzagged around down to my house, and I kinda blew up and said a few words I shouldn't have, and took pictures of the registration. I said, if I ever see you here again, these pictures are going to Fish and Game. And where are you going? We live down in Wildwood. I said, well, I suggest you go down the road to Abijah Bridge and go down to Wildwood. Well, can't we just down this way to Wildwood? I said, yes, you can, but you're not going to. You're gonna go down that road like I said you're going to get to. But that happens all the time.
Right.
It has
Well,
happened.
that's the example of what I used earlier, is that people are using those.
Right.
It's a trick. Oh, let's go this way. You know, I
if
mean,
go-
we
if you
had.
go- If you go out the end of Wildwood, there's a trail that goes up the hill to the cell tower.
Right.
It's a nice trail. Beautiful old road. 4 rods wide. You can see the stone walls both sides.
Yep.
Drive by Toby Cemetery. It's really neat.
but you're not supposed to ride a four-wheeler or a vehicle unless there's landowner permission, or
Right.
unless the trail is already designated as a trail.
Correct.
And anybody that doesn't know that is just,
I guarantee you did not have he did not have property owner permission when he came on my property.
Nope.
But Anyway,
and that's the people that ruin it for everybody else.
Yep.
That's when you get
So-
trail closures and everybody suffers.
Yeah.
And permission has to be in writing.
Yeah.
We had this one trail, there's a sign, and it's marked by the trail club that you can go on it, and the landowner, and he says, this is the trail, go at your own risk. And there's one spot, and if you're not paying attention, you belly out in the mud. And it's on purpose, because that's how we designed the trail, he didn't care, you know? So I'm stuck bellied up, and I can't go anywhere. My old son comes and racks the machine until I'm back out. Try again. Racks the machine, try back. Dad, get out. I'll get through. I'm not paying the payments on this. And he did. He nailed it and went right through the thing.
We didn't have throttle it out.
Yeah, that's right. It's just, and then my spina bifida grandson was with, and he says, I think we're gonna be there forever, Grandpa. And then when we finally got through that whole mess, he says, that was really cool. Going back to identify repair trails, we're taking out as well as. Right?
Yep.
yes.
As well as town class 6 non-maintained roads. Right? Because we can't,
We can't repair them.
okay.
So we down to Lake Horace now? No?
Yeah, cool. Number 4.
How are we gonna limit the number of jet skis and high-speed motorcraft?
I was wondering that as well.
Say that again?
I was wondering that as well, Craig's question.
I don't see how you can.
I think, well,
I would love that.
The
I would say
landlord-
eliminate jet skis personally.
the landowners the landowners do that. The Lake Association,
How are they gonna do it?
I don't know how they do it, but they do it.
But what about people that come to the boat ramp just to launch their jet ski for the day?
How can the,
I don't know.
Yeah, because I don't,
Right.
the land association can't control who's on the water.
no.
Once
And-
you're ankle
and-
deep, that's all public
And
land.
really, as far as jet skis, most of the jet skis that I see are at the Lakeshore Village Resort. That's really where I see the most jet skis.
Yeah.
There's quite a few in that general, area, not just from there, but from across the bay and over there. I personally thought I should get scuba diver, an old brace and bit, just go and drill a hole in the bottom of all those jet skis and not worry about it anymore.
I'd
You'd help?
supply the air.
Everybody I said that said that to, I think it's a great idea. I just don't see how we can limit jet skis.
Well, I don't think you can, because if,
Once they're there,
well, like Fish and Game, right? They were going to, they want to reclassify all the trout fishing only waters to meat flingers and everything else, right?
right,
And there's been several discussions of, well, if it's state property and a guy can fly fish there, why can't I fling meat there,
right,
right? And to the point where people talk lawsuits, right? Because I'm allowed to do it as a fly fisherman, but somebody else can't do it with a spinning rod,
right.
right? So I think
Well, and what is a disruptive watercraft?
a jet ski and a wake boat, both are very
Or
disruptive.
even a bass boat.
Oh, yeah.
We had a boat across the way from Lake Shore, and the boys had it there, and it filled with water because the storm was bad. My pump didn't work. So it's sitting on the bottom, tied up to the dock, sitting on the bottom. So the owner of the property said, "Can you come? Your boat's it's sunk." So I said, okay. I tried to get the boys to go, no, the boys wouldn't go with me. So I'm going over there with the landowner and myself I dredge it out, start pulling it up to dredge it out more. And this big bass boat comes in, the whole hull is out of the water. And he comes in and goes, "Ooh," sends a wave across the whole bay, cove, fills my boat again.
Sinks your boat again.
Yeah, it was like, I was not happy. So, bass
I mean,
boats do the same thing,
Yep.
you know?
But to Ray's
But
earlier
it's
point,
technically a no-wake
right,
area.
and they should be following the rules, but if they're not, that's a marine patrol, that's not something that town
Right.
can police.
Yeah, either the Marine Patrol or Fish and Game.
Or Fish and Game
Right.
would patrol that, there's nothing we can do.
No,
I call them yahoos,
Right.
nothing we can do about the yahoos.
And they'd probably argue, since they're already paying registration to register it as a watercraft, why can't they ride it on the water?
well, there are some lakes that prohibit,
Yes, there
Yeah,
are.
jet skis, but
Personal
I
watercraft.
don't know how that works, or,
Well, if the town, who actually owns Lake Horace? Is it
The
town
state,
or state?
I believe it's the state,
Who owns the dam?
I think it's the state,
I thought it was Eversource.
might be, I'm not sure.
does it
Because
look-
I know-
ultimately, you can,
They have to get a
But-
shoreland permit from the state if they're doing anything on the shores of Lake
well,
Horace.
anything over like 10 acres, you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because you can put speed limits and motor size restrictions
Oh,
on-
yeah.
on some.
well, Mount William Pond has, what is it,
Oh, You can't even.
you
put
can't
it-
do, you can
can't
have,
put-
you can have a trolling motor, right?
have An electric motor. only.
Electric.
Yeah, electric motor only.
Yeah.
I mean, Lake Winnipesaukee has speed limits, but that was a huge,
Oh,
that
Lake-
took
yeah,
years.
Lake Winnipesaukee is.
But that took years to get that.
Well, and it's like 50 miles an hour and nobody abides by it.
Correct.
Squam Lake
So
is 40 during the day, 20
Yeah.
at night.
Right.
you took the jet ski thing out.
Yes, I took the jet ski thing out, 'cause I don't see any way you can possibly enforce that.
And as well, the high-speed motorcraft, how can you, How can you limit that?
Well, the way to do it would be to do a rule that says you can only have a 25 horsepower motor.
Well, that's gonna go over like a fart in the church, literally.
Sorry?
Yeah, because there's a lot of people on that lake that have bigger boats than that.
Yeah, that would never fly.
No, that would never.
Okay.
Personally, it's after 9, and I'm getting exhausted.
Okay,
How about everybody else?
that's good. We made a good
Start with page 12 next
page
time?
12. Which is what, are we meeting that other day?
No,
I thought we decided, no, we weren't.
that's what you had decided, yeah. So,
We can change my mind.
Okay.
I don't mind. I think it's.
So when do we pick this up again? At our next work session or at our next meeting?
well, our next meeting is the 24th.
We've got a full docket.
We've got a full docket. So are we bringing this up at the October 8th work session?
We're not meeting the second week, why?
That is the assessor's workshop, so
They're stealing our room.
Oh,
we got bumped so that they could have the info session in the spirit of communication.
oh,
It's an info session with the Avatar representative to talk to people about the process of the reval.
Boy, I hope
And-
that guy's got Kevlar underwear.
Lauren can handle herself.
Yes, she can. And she's very,
She's very knowledgeable.
yes.
Do we wanna meet in the 17th or not?
I thought you
Only
had
to
said no.
finish this.
No.
No, okay.
I move we,
Oh, everybody said no.
I move we move it to October 8th. If a movement is necessary.
We're almost done anyways.
Yep.
Craig, do you want to do minutes tonight, or do you want to table them?
Let's table them.
Do I need a motion for that?
The motion, we table the minutes till next meeting, October 8th.
Second, all in favor, aye.
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 Don't think we need to, but we did.
I move we adjourn.
Second,
Discussion. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.